What's going on YouTube? This is Ribo at the Bench, and today I have another cut or carry knife review. Tonight looking at the K-Bar Dozier. So this is a very popular budget option from K-Bar. I've had this in my wish list for many years and just, kind of just never really thought about it, just haven't done it. And I finally saw one of these pop up for 15 bucks and I pulled the trigger because I thought you can't really go wrong with a $15 knife. And so I thought I'd see kind of what the fuss was about. So here it is. So the K-Bar Dozier, Aus-8 steel and a back lock with, I believe, Zytel kind of FRN scales. You have a pocket clip that does come on it. You can see right there, I did take this one off and I'll talk through that in a little bit, but you have a pocket clip. And let's see, what else? You have this nice kind of hollow grind, but nice deep there. You can see that my blade is fairly dirty. I'll talk about that a little bit too. I didn't clean it up too much, but it's a Dozier design, really interesting little knife. So let's get some kind of baseline measurements out of the way. I've had this knife now for about a month, put it through some hard use, and so I feel like I have some good things to say about it. So 2.1 ounces, which is very interesting because I think the Delica comes in at 2.2. I think they're somewhat similar knives in a very odd way, so I'll talk about that a little bit. Do some size comparisons, zero this out. I'm sorry, not comparisons, checks. So in terms of sharpened blade length, you're looking at around 2.8. Yeah, around 2.8. And then in the pocket, you are looking at 4.24. So not a small knife, but not too big. Do some quick size comparisons. So here's your Dozier. You have, as always, the Ontario Rat 2. So you can see it's a fairly similar size knife. You have a little bit wider blade over here. You have your Spyderco Delica 4, again, very similar size knife. Delica's got a smaller blade as well. And then just for fun, you have your Paramilitary 2, your classic PM2. Shout out to Brian, who is letting me borrow this PM2 to kind of see what I've been missing. Really been enjoying getting to know this guy. Very popular knife, obviously much bigger than the Dozier. So there are kind of your baseline measurements and size comparisons. So let's talk about the Dozier. All right, so the Dozier. This arrived, and honestly, from the pictures and everything that I've seen, I always thought it was a very attractive knife considering the price. But I always thought that it was going to feel very cheaply made. The handle here looks fairly cheaply made. The logo here is really nothing all that special. I mean, overall, like the handles, there's really nothing sexy about it, right? But the blade to me is the selling point. This is a beautiful blade design. It is like very practical. You have a very wide belly, kind of a nice drop point there. You have a thicker blade in the back here and a nice deep hollow grind here with a really nice plunge grind that just goes right up, which is really nice. You have really nothing that's going to get in the way of slicing on this knife. So I've always thought that it would be a very good slicer, but not really feel all that nice. And so when I opened this up, I was very pleasantly surprised that right out of the box, this punched above its price range. I mean, the first time that I opened it, I thought, wow, I mean, this feels like a knife that's worth at least twice as much as it is. Again, I paid $15 for it, so it's not a ton that I thought it was worth, but definitely more than $15. The biggest reason for that is the back lock. I mean, a lot of times on cheaper knives, you have something like a liner lock, frame lock, something like that. But here you have a back lock, and this is a very hard back lock. And what I mean by that is you can see right there where that's going to catch. You have two big chunks of metal, and when you open this, that is a very loud snap, and I can't really portray this in the video, but it is a very hard catch. There is a lot of confidence that you have when you open this knife, that it is going to stay put. I think I told a friend of mine, Russ, shout out Russ, this feels like a fixed blade when you open it up, and I really do mean that. I've been very impressed that when I open this up, I mean, there's no blade play. in any direction. It feels like it is just completely locked in. It feels like a small fixed blade. And so that was the thing that really surprised me right out of the gate. And I thought immediately, man, this is a good knife. This is really good. Other things that I really like about it, the blade. I mean, I cannot say enough good things about the blade. So just a beautiful shape, very, very useful, very practical. One of those things that is made for cutting and made for tasks. Let me wipe this off. Like I said, the blade is filthy. But it is just very practical. It is a fantastic slicer. It is great for prying things open. It's very thick back here, but tapers down very nicely. You don't really have any type of sharpening choil or anything like that. You can see that grind comes down here, and then you have this kind of unsharpened bit, which isn't great, but for the price, really can't complain. Other things I like about it, obviously I said the back lock, the blade, the scales are absolutely fine. I mean, this is, you have some texturing here that's pretty uniform, kind of diamond pattern, and it's absolutely fine. It feels really, really good. No complaints. Doesn't look, all that great. It's not really a knife that's made to look all that great, I don't think. I still think it's a very attractive knife, but in terms of the handle here, especially with the logo, it's not the best looking thing, but it works, and so there's no complaints. You have some nice jimping up here. Could have used a little bit more maybe, but you do have some nice jimping up here. So it just locks in very well, very comfortable to hold, no issues with the grip. You have a very comfortable grip, not a lot of contouring here, but that's okay. You have a nice sweep, lock in on all your fingers there, no issues at all. Other thing, I mentioned the back lock, but the other thing I like is that the back lock is very easy to use. So that it's very easy to mash. You have a nice thick bar of steel here. Mashes down very easily. It doesn't drop shut, but it is easy to close. Whereas I've mentioned on the chaparral, which I don't have in front of me right now, it is hard to mash down this back lock here. But it also does not fall shut. Whereas here, it's easy to kind of mash down. Although it doesn't fall shut, it does close very easily. I've had issues with that on the chaparral before. So that's kind of what I like. This has been a great knife, and I'll kind of end the likes with two things. So number one, I've really put this through its paces in the last month. This knife has become my de facto project tool knife. So this is the knife that kind of goes in the toolbox. I've had my wife and I are preparing for twins. We live in a very small house, and so pretty much every weekend from now until when the twins arrive is a project weekend. So we already have one child, and so we're preparing for two more. And so basically, I am trying to make our very small house hospitable for 3 tiny humans. So what that means is I've had a different project every weekend. And so I've been cutting on the table saw. I've been assembling shelves and closets and all kind of stuff. Been cutting metal piping and drilling big holes and all kinds of stuff. And this has been my knife for all of that. I have used this as a tool knife. I'm a knife guy, so I don't want to damage one of my nice edges or nice knives. And so I've been very hesitant to use anything expensive. And even usually in the past, the Rat 2 has kind of been my project knife. But I thought, let's sub in this guy and see how it does. And it has performed almost flawlessly. It has been a fantastic companion, and it will be staying right where it is as a tool knife. It is a fantastic option for a tool knife. In the past couple weeks, off the top of my head, let me list out the stuff that I've done with this knife. So first of all, I had to lay quarter round, kind of, on the baseboard molding of our bathroom. And I had thought I had cut all the pieces and was basically just brad nailing them in place. And I realized too late, after I had basically put all my tools away, that I had mismeasured, not surprising, I had mismeasured one of the pieces of quarter round. And so basically I was gonna have to go out to the shop, set up all the chop saw and everything just to make one little cut. Or I could just pull this guy out. And so I actually, without my wife looking, mind you, that is a very important thing to remember. Without my wife looking, I grabbed a cutting board from the kitchen. I took out this guy and I just sliced off about a 1/4 inch of that 1/4 round, and it sliced cleanly through at a 90-degree angle. It was unbelievable. I was very, very impressed, and I installed it right then. So immediately it was like, man, that was super, super useful. So this thing just sliced through a 1/4 inch of wood with no painted wood, mind you, with no issues at all. So that was really cool. Other things I've done, so I had to drill out, I told you I cut metal piping the other day. I had to drill out some, I had made these kind of square, thick pieces of wood to put the piping through, to use kind of as rod hanger, what am I saying? Hang clothes on, whatever you call that. So I had cut out these pieces of wood, and I was having to drill about a 1.5 inch hole using a hole saw in the wood. And so I drilled out the hole on all 4 of these pieces of wood. Actually, it was 2, 4, 6, it was 8 different pieces of wood. And on each one that I did, it would kind of leave a little, I don't know how to say it, like a little burr of wood on the inside where it didn't cut exactly cleanly. And because of that, it would prevent the metal from seating all the way in. So what did I do? I took this K-bar, put it right in there, and basically just scraped out all of that wood, basically just trying to destroy the edge on this. Going into each of those 8 and just kind of doing a scooping cut and scraping all that wood out. It did phenomenally, something. It performed wonderfully. It was fantastic. Nice big blade, large handle, felt like a fixed blade that I could really brace on and get a good scooping cut. Something I'd be a little bit worried to do with some of my other knives, especially ones that have kind of pointier tips like this. No problem for the Dozier. It was fantastic for that. I've done all kinds of other things. I've cut open packages and boxes and, you know, all the stuff that you would expect. But even in kind of specialized project settings, this knife has been through a lot, and you know, in the last month, and it has held up fantastic. I mean, there's no blade play. I haven't done anything to this. I haven't sharpened it. I haven't cleaned it. You can see there's gunk and you know, I don't know, probably paint and all kind of stuff all over this knife. The edge is not great. I mean, it's still fairly sharp. I could probably still cut paper with this, but you know, it's done fantastic, and so I've been very, very impressed. And really the thing that, well, actually, I'll get to that in a second. Let me talk about some dislikes real quick. Dislikes. 1, the pocket clip. Pocket clip kind of sucks. Visually, I think that you would think that this pocket clip works fairly well. Kind of try to put it on here. You can change this to be on this side or this side. You can't put it over here, but it does come on here if I kind of just hold this up. So visually, you would think, well, this is a fail. Let's see. All right, so visually you would think that this pocket clip performs all right, right? And in some ways it does. It's a longer clip, which I tend to like. It's a nice steady ramp there. You do have a fairly large kind of ramp up this way, which is very nice. But one thing that you'll notice is that if you center that there, what they tried to do is what the Delica does here, which is kind of come down on top of the logo right here so that you can very easily get it into your pocket. And I'm not going to be able to show this because I don't actually have it attached. Let's see if I can. But they just missed the mark. So it comes down right on the edge, which means as it's going into your pocket, you're basically going right into not only the texture here, but you're going into the lip of the logo. So you're going into kind of 2 textures. Just makes it very, very uncomfortable to get in the pocket. And honestly, you know, it doesn't sit very low, which I guess it's not really a deep carry knife, but you can see you still have a decent amount of material, kind of out of the pocket. So overall, it's not a knife that I would clip to the pocket. It's been kind of down in the pants or in the toolbox, something like that. So not a huge deal for me, but something to keep in mind. The pocket clip's not all that great. Other things, the thumb stud here kind of sucks. You know, I've seen people open this just fine. I cannot. So I get to about right there, and just based on where my hand is, I have to kind of choke up to get it all the way. To me, I would have liked that to be a little bit further down, because when I push up against this, it's just not very easy to push. You don't have a lot of space between the thumb stud here and the scale. So you kind of have to push from the bottom, push out, And then when I get to about right there, I just can't extend any further. And whatever I do, I can't. So I have to kind of readjust and open it up. That's probably been the most annoying thing about the knife, just because it's not really a one-hand open knife. At least to me. I've seen people do it, but I've had a lot of trouble one-hand opening the knife. Honestly, what I typically do, because of the large belly and back of this knife, I typically just grab this and pull out, and that does absolutely fine. It's a satisfying knife to open that way, and that's fine. I do wish that it was one-hand open, especially as a tool knife. Besides that, I think that is it. I mean, that's really the only issues that I've had with this knife. And so final conclusions, cutter carry, strong carry. And not only a carry, but probably a double carry. And by that I mean I'm probably going to be buying at least one more of these because they are super helpful and practical to have in all kinds of different places. It's just a very handy knife, one that you can count on, very reliable. I've tested this, and I think honestly the reason I like this knife so much is that I think on a very small scale, on a very budget scale, they are doing a lot of the same things that the Spyderco Delica is doing. Visually, I think these knives actually look quite similar to the point that you almost think Ka-Bar kind of ripped off Spyderco. I don't know if they did. I'm not saying they did, but they look a lot similar, right? You have the circular logo here. You have kind of the circular logo right in the middle of the Delica. Both are backlocks, both very similar in how they feel. I would say that the Dozier actually feels a little bit more satisfying to open if you listen to this versus this. Just feels stronger here. They both have, basically the same kind of texturing. This isn't bi-directional, but again, like the budget option of this. They both try to do this thing where the clip comes down onto the logo. Spyderco hits that dead on. Ka-Bar does not. But otherwise just very similar. You can kind of start to see some of those similarities. Another kind of funny and odd similarity is the black clip. So, by default, Spyderco Delica 4s come with a black clip, even though everything else on the knife, or nothing else on the knife, is black. Here you do have a couple screws that are black, but the the back lock here is not, and it just doesn't really make a ton of sense with the knife. And so I thought that was another kind of funny similarity with the Delica 4. And so while these aren't, two knives that I would review head to head, obviously, because there's a huge price disparity, steel disparity, etc. This is like the ultra budget version of a Delica 4. And I think that's one of the reasons that I kind of really like it. It feels very lightweight, but you get a really big, nice blade. You have something that can do a lot of heavy tasks that you wouldn't necessarily expect, and seems like it's going to hold up very well for something that's under $20. It's not going to be a disposable knife, which I really like and appreciate. So this is a strong carry for me. I've really enjoyed this knife and probably will own more in the future. So there we go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.